Hey everyone, Monarch here, and once again, I am back with yet another ramble. I realize it's been a bit since I last did this. Apologies, especially in terms of content as of recently, but that's all besides the point. And ultimately, I hope everyone's been having a good time, a good week as of recently, especially in the monster community, because Title Update 2 just recently came out, featuring both Lagiacrus and Seregios. And safe to say there's been a lot of talk in the community with Seregios and Lagiacrus, their fights, their challenge, their gear, overall what people think of them, and what this means in terms of the future of Monster Hunter and Wilds most importantly. So I thought, what better way to discuss my thoughts on them than to ramble for like 20 or so minutes, I imagine. You know how it is if you've been with the channel for a while. This is just how we operate around here, and besides, this gives me something else to do. This gives me a small form of content to upload while I'm working on other projects in the meanwhile, or trying to get back into it, because that's still admittedly a little rough right now, me trying to get back into working and editing, but bit by bit, it's getting better. So, yeah, I don't know, we're just gonna discuss both the monsters, see where things go from here, and that's how it's gonna go. So first up on the chopping block, I'm actually going to talk about Seregios first. This isn't because I dislike Seregios, in fact, quite the opposite, but this is just because I have more thoughts on Lagiacrus as a whole. There's a lot more to talk about with him, a lot more personal attachment than with Seregios, so yeah, and plus I feel like Seregios is simpler to talk about. So my overall thoughts on Seregios is interesting, because this is going off of Sunbreak Seregios, which for me was a definite highlight of the campaign. It was a nice glow up for the boy, some added threat level and mobility that paired well with that game's systems and mechanics. So, going into Wilds, which does not have any wire bug or extra movement tools like that, I was really curious to see how they would adapt Seregios into this game, and how it would measure up to Sunbreak Seregios. It was especially interesting because in the livestream, in the call, we also had my good buddy Ryan, aka some people may know him more as Red Leopard Videos, or as he goes by now, Ginger Giant. And he is someone who has not played Sunbreak, or who has not played Rise and Sunbreak enough to finish it. So it was interesting in that three of us in the call had like this perspective on and comparison to Sunbreak Seregios, whereas Ryan over there had the closest comparison to For You and Generations Seregios, as that was the most recent he had fought him. And if I'm gonna be honest, Seregios at first was kind of a little middling. Perhaps that may be because of the fact that we fought him after Lagiacrus, which, yeah, I'm getting into that later. But yeah, saving Seregios for last because we wanted to do Lagiacrus first. And so it was just kind of awkward seeing like, okay, what did Seregios have new in this iteration? What kind of movement did he have? And overall, the impression we got was that he leans a lot closer to his For You and Generations counterpart than his Sunbreak counterpart. Like, he didn't seem to move around as much as Sunbreak, or at least as spastically, where he did all those aerial combos that you had to wait for before you got opening, either that or you chased him down. And overall, like, his attacks, like with the kicking, with the swooping, with the directional dives, it all seemed very much closer to For and For You. Which not to say that he didn't show off any of the new tricks he had, he definitely did, especially the big aerial swoop dive with his talons, which I gotta say, that is a very cool dynamic looking move, very powerful looking, just how he gets his claw stuck in the earth like that. And it definitely seemed like he was very threatening with bleed, or like he definitely seemed to proc bleed a lot more. He had some scale throwing attacks that was new there, but overall it seemed much closer to For You Seregios, and it's like, that's fine. I like Seregios and For You, but there kind of was like an overtaining feeling of, oh, that's it? There was definitely an impression of him being the underdog of the update in comparison to Lagiacrus. That's fine, I guess. I guess Seregios in Sunbreak is probably the best iteration of Seregios at the current moment. Then the Tempered came in, and that was a whole different story.
That's Seregios and oh my god. Holy fuck. Oh, I died. Oh my god.
Oh, wait. Also, I just saw this is
Holy
only a
shit.
3-star Tempered Seregios. It's not even 5.
Yeah, it's just a 3-star. Yeah, and that like 2-shot me. That's crazy business.
Wait, what's happening?
Wow, that hammer's like, it's like riding a bike, man. It's like riding a bike.
Oh. Who was that? That was good.
Oh, there he goes. He got me.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
2 attempts. Okay, I assume
Yep.
had insurance.
Well, I didn't.
Oh, that did a lot of damage. What the hell?
Okay, oh my Jesus, dude, bro,
Dude,
chill.
that's
That's fucking shit damage. Holy fuck.
Okay, bro.
I will say.
Bro.
Oh my god! Wow.
Jesus, that hardcore.
He was
Taking on me,
focusing
dude.
down
Oh.
on you.
It's like the accuracy isn't great, but when it hits.
Oh my god. I saw
Okay.
that.
Alright, you know what?
I was trying to life powder there.
It wasn't me that I didn't triple cart, so I'll take it. I didn't. I double carded, but I didn't triple
You
cart.
didn't get the triple,
Alright.
and that's what matters.
The jump between Tempered Seregios and regular is incredible. It is honestly kind of ridiculous just how wide the gap is between the two of them. It was probably one of the biggest jumps I have ever seen a monster go through from base to its upgraded Tempered version. It's kind of ridiculous, and the last time I felt something similar to this was my first time with Wild Scormagala Tempered, which is saying a lot because I had the fear of God struck into me with Tempered Gormagala, and that was before the buffs they all got in the Akuma updates. But yeah, safe to say any and all disappointment we had with Seregios at first was quickly blown away by his Tempered. And if I'm gonna be honest, I think this is where Seregios really shines. This is where Seregios really comes into his own as a threatening monster, with mobility and damage to back him up. He uses a lot more of his combos here. He's much faster. He moves around a lot more. He uses more of his new moves and strings them all together. And overall, the threat level is just through the roof. That 1-2 air swoop kick will have like instant bleed proc if you get hit by it, which is insanity. And it was also here where we got to see the new pin, or modified pin, that he has, which yeah, that is a fucking killer. And it was overall just kind of a wake-up experience, essentially. Like, we were already locked in, adrenaline high with Lagiacrus and this update as a whole, but Tempered Seregios was really the part of a live stream or the whole experience where we were like, okay, shit is getting real, we actually need to game a little bit. And as difficult as the fight is, even at 3-star Tempered, at especially 5-star Tempered, which I did my fair share of those in the live stream, Seregios is a very fun fight. Like I said, I think Tempered really brings out the shine in Seregios that, if I'm gonna be honest, he's been kind of missing up until, like, his Sunbreak incarnation. This goes back to an old video I made of disappointing monsters, and Seregios was in there just because I feel like as if after the flagship hype of him in For You, I kind of realized that he's just not really threatening He's very archaic and basic with his attack patterns. He's not really all that dangerous, kind of easy to bully, which Sunbreak changed that. But I'm happy to see that even in a game like Wilds, which has no wire bug or movement tools like that they are still able to get that extra threat level factor, that they are able to deliver on Seregios' premise and fully flesh that out. It's pretty amazing, and yeah, I'm gonna say that Seregios definitely doesn't qualify as a disappointment anymore. What I will ask for is for Seregios to perhaps get a little bit of sunshine in the expansion, and this is a hope I have, just seeing how he's now in the base of a game, even if it is as a title update. Like, he's never been in... No, wait, he was in Generations, but like, outside of Generations, which was an anniversary title, he hasn't been in the base of any other Monster Hunter game. He's been mostly relegated to expansions, so I'm really curious to see what they do with Seregios going forward. Like, this is an opportunity for them to finally give Seregios a new variant, a new subspecies, maybe even a rare species, because only flagships get rare species. And I'd say the boy desperately needs it. He is one of the few flagships out there to have no variation or anything like that in the main line, and I think he desperately needs it. That would be really cool to see, because they're already doing a lot with his concept. They're making him threatening, so it's like, okay, where can you go from here? What can you do with his concept? How can you change it up? Are you going to add a new status? Are you going to change up his elements? What's his attack pattern going to be like? They could do a lot with Seregios' base concept and expand that with a subspecies, variation, or rare species in the expansion. And I'm curious to see what that will do for his weapons as well as his armor, which, yeah, that's another thing about Seregios that really proved itself. The weapons and armor. They are really good. It's safe to say that the weapons and armor in general this update are extremely good and unique with how they work. But in the call was a bit disappointed at first that Seregios didn't have the iteration of his skill from For You, that it was mainly Sunbreak iteration, but he was a bit more happy to see that the guns had also reloading on their skill, and the special sharpness part I did not read out loud, or I did not recognize, and much less I did not take a good look at the full set bonus of the armor, which, yeah, safe to say Seregios is probably the new best raw weapons in the game, if you care about it that much. And yeah, armor and weapons look very good. Definitely excited to make more of them and experiment with the armor in full. And this also leads into hopes, where I really do hope that Master Rank, G Rank Seregios, whatever you want to call it, or whatever they call it for the expansion, gets a new armor set. Because that has been my number one hope with Seregios for the longest time. Because I like Seregios' armor, but I'm not gonna lie, I wish there was a new design. I wish that they updated the design or made a new G-Rank design that wasn't just the same armor as high rank, but instead there's some extra color changes. Like, that's not fun. I want to see you tap more into the concept of Seregios and the Thousand Blades thing. I want to see them do something unique with the armor, which, hey, that's already been kind of mediated because the beta version of Seregios armor in Wilds is actually the female gunner armor from 4 Ultimate, which I never really got or saw that much because I didn't play gunner or female in 4 Ultimate, so that's neat. That's already like a little bit of visual variety, and if I'm going to be honest, I really like the design of, especially the chest piece. But yeah, just further expansion on the armor design, seeing what they do for G-Rank expansion, that would be very cool. And overall, yeah, Seregios is a very cool monster. Definitely with Tempered in mind, I think he would now shoot to like around top great, maybe even fantastic for me. I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little bit because Wilds for me still is one of those games where there's not really a bad monster. Like, at most, there's a disappointing monster, maybe, but, like, there's not been a single monster that I, like, outright hate fighting, if I'm gonna be real. And I feel like for me, sometimes I hand out Fantastics way too easily. Like I make the top tiers of my tier list way too packed, or I'm way too generous in terms of my praises. So who knows, maybe in the future I might get harsher in my critiques and make Seregios only a great, but for now that's where he's skirting. And then there's Lagiacrus. Then there's my baby boy. The OG, the first flagship I have ever known. I know this is very particular to my experience because I started with Try, or like I have a very particular special case with how I got into Monster Hunter, but I feel like a lot of like the new players, or like 5th gen people, don't really fully grasp just how big of a deal Lagiacrus is in this game. Or much less what they do with him here, where he was in a game from over 10 years ago when he first debuted. He's been locked to the 3rd generation in terms of his central mechanics of being the Lord of the Seas. He made a comeback in Generations and Genu, which while was nice for a little bit, kind of wasn't everything we wanted. There were some cracks in the design of Generations and Genu Lagiacrus. I'm gonna be completely honest, especially when we get to Hyper Lagiacrus and G-Rank Lagiacrus and Hyper G-Rank Lagiacrus. Oh my god. That is an absolute monster. And just not fun to fight at all. So, it's safe to say that there's a lot of apprehension about Lagiacrus in this game, or if he would ever come back, considering the reputation he got from Generations and Genu with that incarnation. And ultimately, it was the idea of like, oh, even if he would come back, would he ever be the same? Would he ever be Lagiacrus, the Lord of the Seas? Because he wouldn't have underwater combat. With Wild Lagiacrus, I am happy to say that the hype is well deserved. The hype is totally 100% justifiably deserved. And this is the best Lagiacrus. This is the best Lagiacrus, hands down, since his OG debut. The raw emotions I felt during that hunt, during the first reaction, it was just special. It really felt like a fantasy, a dream come to life, essentially, where it's like, this should not be real. What I'm seeing in front of me, Lagiacrus, in a modern, mainline, fully HD, next-generation console Monster Hunter. This should not be possible. This should not be here. This feels like a fever dream, much less that it actually has something close to underwater combat. Like, this should not be real. This feels like a fever dream, but oh my god, it's here! It's right there, and I'm experiencing it, and everything about it is just perfect. I don't care if it's hyperbole for me, if I'm over-exaggerating or, like, buying too much into the hype. This is a perfect incarnation of Lagiacrus. This is just absolutely perfect. Everything from his design, his coloration and shading, his effects. Oh my god, the effects and sound design are fucking orgasmic. It's just so good seeing the shell spikes glow up lightly, like around the base of a spike whenever you use electricity. It's so good to see them glow and fully charge. It's so good with the electricity, the way it crackles in the air, the steam created from contact with the water, how the sound even hangs in the air, essentially. His roars, his music as a remix of Tremors on Land and Sea, the Moga Island theme, now having that be his theme going forward, like how Forest and Hills is Rathalos' theme going forward. It is genuinely amazing. And they do everything right, not just in terms of sound design or graphics or all that, but also in terms of attacks, where it's like, this is what I feel is a perfect combination between a land Lagiacrus, which is focused on like melee combos and slides and all that, and then mixing that with a bit of the ranged focus with something like Generations Lagiacrus. It's like he's got all the moves I remember him having from Free Ultimates, from Try, and it's revamped here. There's more. He's got new follow-ups. He's got brand new attacks entirely, like the Psycho Crusher, the little corkscrew drive that he did. He's got like a little 1-2 slide with pulses afterwards. The electric shocks are so damn dangerous, and probably their most dangerous they've ever been, because of how they multi-proc, essentially, that they keep you stuck there for a few hits before you ever get knocked back, which is incredibly dangerous with a weapon that has iframes or has super armor on certain moves. Like, that punishes counters so much, and even blocking weapons, you gotta, like, be careful about how you block that, or, like, perfect guard every hit with the lightning, and while all the while checking your stamina bar, essentially, because it will run low in a lot of these attacks. There have been some close calls from me and my team when we're trying to block it. Or even just like little added extra attacks or visuals, like from Generations, where he has like the little electric path with his projectiles sometimes. Like that's so cool to see. And all that, like, makes him a great fight, but it's finesse that really gives him a fantastic for me. I know some people are disappointed or like a little miffed about how the underwater combat is done here, but it's a bootleg pseudo underwater combat where you can't exactly move like you originally did in Try or Free You, that you can't swing your weapons, that you're limited in terms of how to attack or counteract Lagiacrus, and that's fair enough. I've even heard some people call it repetitious, essentially, that it slows down the pacing of the fight, and I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly. Because while, yes, in a perfect world, I would have liked it to have been the underwater combat with weapons we could pull out and attack, with everything like it was, but better. But I can recognize that this isn't a perfect world. I can recognize that Wilds is already doing a lot of mechanics with engine, with graphics, that there's a lot being overhauled here, and that underwater combat is kind of its own thing to be saved for a future game. Like, if underwater combat were to come back in full, it needs its own game dedicated to it, essentially. It needs all hands on deck, focusing on it, revising the controls, the camera, and also giving every monster that is applicable to underwater combat 2 different movesets, which Capcom has gone on record saying that that is one of the main reasons why it's so difficult to bring back underwater combat, because the fact that they have to design 2 different toolkits for the monsters. Just like a new game, a new dedicated game to it is what underwater combat needs. So you know what? I'm fine with how underwater combat is right now. I'm fine that it's a special little thing we have for the Lord of the Seas. It brings back his identity and what he is most well known for. Where it's like, even if Generations of Lagiacrus may have been good, or there may have been a lot of hype at first, it's like, it still doesn't involve the water. And that's like his main thing. Just like how you can't have Rathalos without the flying, you cannot have Lagiacrus without the swimming. It may be called Lagiacrus, but it doesn't feel like Lagiacrus, if people can understand what I'm saying. I don't know, maybe that's just me and my purist talk going on with, like, as an OG tryhead. And I don't mean to diss other people out there who like Lagiacrus or whatever else. It's just that, like, for someone who started at that game, who associated Lagiacrus with the water, where it's like, that is his domain, that is his speciality, that is his counterpart to Rathalos' Sky, it feels so damn good to have that back. Even if just a little bit. And you know what? It controls wonderfully as well. It took a little bit for my muscle memory to click in that, oh, R1 isn't to run or dash underwater anymore like it was in Try or Free You. Instead, R1 and the triggers are dedicated to raising or lowering yourself in the water, therefore altering your altitude or your height within it. And your best movement option is X to dash. That's the best you're getting in terms of fast movement. But it didn't take all that long for me to adjust, and honestly, once I did, it's like, holy shit, this is so smooth. Even basic hunter movement is so much faster than it was back in Try or Free You that it's not even all that much of a problem. It's just so buttery smooth, moving around, altering your height, your altitude in the water with R1, which that was also always a problem underwater combat had back in base. Like, even as someone who loved underwater combat, I can admit it had its faults, and the altitude was one of them. It was really tricky trying to move around in a 3D space or like swim or dash upwards without things going a little bit kooky. So just having that here be so much easier, so smooth, and like a practical way to dodge attacks, yeah, that's great. And just the overall focus of using the underwater environment, using the collapsible rubble, using the slinger pods, using whatever you can get your hands on, and then cleaning on with whatever opening you have to deal damage or to break or make wounds, which, yeah, like, again, it's not full-on underwater combat, but I still think this works out pretty well. And hey, it's funny to see Clutch Claw kind of come back as well, if just a tiny bit here with underwater combat. And yeah, it's fun when you get a handle of it. And just the whole ending sequence of, if you succeed at the damage check, you get this whole cutscene, which is very God of War-esque. You get the special interaction by the wall if you're close enough. It's amazing. It's such a good spectacle. It does such a good job at making Lagiacrus feel special in the context of Wilds, in the context of Monster Hunter as a whole. And that's another thing I feel like an underrated aspect that some people may not talk about. It's just how they deliver and execute Lagiacrus here. Not just in terms of fight, it's how they talk about him, revere him, essentially. How they make, even in the cutscene, or just mechanics compared to other monsters, a big deal. Like, no other monster has this at the moment. This makes Lagiacrus completely unique, one of a kind in the landscape of Wilds. And that's special. That is incredibly special and just heartwarming, knowing that the devs care. And like I've said, like, I know there's a lot of skepticism around companies nowadays, and I mean, that's for good reason. Companies can do a lot of shady shit, and, you know, it's wise to not exactly trust them or to put your faith in them. But it's like, even if I don't trust Capcom or like the company, the shareholders, I trust the developers. I trust the people working on this behind the scenes, working on Lagiacrus and the project, because I know their passion. I can see their passion and the dedication they have for these monsters, how they talk about them, how they share the development stories, how they talk about their experiences with Monster Hunter as a whole, them growing up and playing with it, or having a hand developing these monsters. That's like a special connection I don't think a lot of devs out there in gaming have. That may be foolish on my part, but that's just how I feel. And I can feel that love, that passion here with Lagiacrus. Not just to like how they delivered the fights, the mechanics, but also his character, his regality, his power, why he's such a big deal to everyone, and to especially those who grew up with the third generation and Try like I did. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime event, and it means a lot, and it means a lot going forward into the future. Because even if this isn't underwater combat in its fullest, the fact that they're still trying here, the fact that they're going back to this mechanic, that they're touching upon it, trying it with Lagiacrus here as a one-off, it tells me a lot that they want to do underwater combat again. They see the potential, they see the monsters that can be brought back because of it. They see the monsters that can be made because of underwater combat, what you could do with systems like this. And that's why I've always been a supporter of underwater combat, flaws and all, because it opens up a brand new dimension to underwater monsters, to Monster Hunter as a whole. where we would get so many ideas and concepts we wouldn't get otherwise. And this is a testing grounds. This is some crazy copium crackpot theories for me, but I think, honestly, this is a testing ground for underwater combat in the future. They're integrating into Lagiacrus here to make it feel special, to like add a little bit of extra flair, to break it up and differentiate himself from other monsters in the game, and that works out well. I think that this is a good pace change mechanic compared to the rest of the monsters. It differentiates Lagiacrus, and ultimately, like, again, I don't think it's repetitious. I find it nice and relaxing, and it controls well. But like outside of that, this is full-on a test for them to test out the mechanics, see how people respond, and then decide what to do with underwater combat from there. Like, if they should return to it, if they should dedicate a game to it, whatever else. And mark my words, the moment underwater combat comes back in full, I am gonna be such a vindicated, happy little hunter. I am gonna scream at the top of my lungs, or like, I am dedicating all my time to underwater combat. I am not going out of the water. And I'm like, no, you cannot make me get out of the pool. I will not. Yeah, I'm very hopeful. Like, if people can't tell already from like the way I talk about things, or how I approach these subjects, I'm just like a very hopeful person. And again, some people may consider that foolish, some people may consider that unwise or unhealthy, considering nowadays that you need to be realistic. But while part of that is true, I'd also like to say that hope is a part of the human experience. We as humans need hope, even in like the little small things, because how else is life to be bearable? Because it can be rough. It can be very rough, and there's a lot of challenges we face nowadays, especially nowadays with various demographics, which I am not getting into that. That is too much for this video, but yeah, it's like, call me childish, call me foolish, whatever you will, but I like to have hope. I want to have hope. I think it's good to have hope, and here I have hope for Lagiacrus and the future of this game. I am really happy with how they did Seregios and Lagiacrus all together. I think they are fantastic monsters, especially when you add in tempered variations. Like, these are nice difficulty increases, and you can definitely tell that they are listening to feedback, that they are addressing complaints about difficulty, and are doing their best to scale it. And if I'm gonna be honest, I feel like some of these 5-star tempereds are like G-rank levels of difficulty. It's kind of insane how hard some of these monsters hit, or how they move. And before, some people still say, oh, the game's too easy. Whatever. But it's like, yeah, I have hope with how they're treating the game. And I think we're at an interesting crossroads with Tile Update 3 and the future going forward, because, okay, we've got Lagiacrus and Seregios in the game now. Where to next? What is the next monster going to be in late September? Which, oh boy, there's gonna be a lot of people melting down over that. But yeah, like the focus, as I've been saying before, has been Apex focus, and I think that's been good for overall difficulty progression and not to get immediately into Elder Dragons. But where do we go from here? Because if we want to stay in Apex tier, or around that range, there's not a lot of other monsters I can think of for title updates. Maybe if we're sticking to that, at best, I'd probably want Gammoth. I think Gammoth is one of the top flagships or monsters that people want to make a comeback, and it's a monster that has not returned in a while. It is the only member of the Fated Four to have not gotten a recent reappearance. So I think Gammoth is definitely possible, or well wanted, but then it's a question of, okay, how would we implement Gammoth into the game, considering the size? And also, I'm not sure about Ice Shard Cliffs. Maybe they could open up a new region of the Ice Shard Cliffs for Gammoth, or plop her into Jindahad's arena, but I'm not sure how that would work. I'm not sure how that would work, given the size of the Ice Shard Cliffs with the hallways, the narrow hallways, and lots of tight interior spaces. And even in something like Jindahad's arena, it's like, she's not moving around for shit. Like, all the little special pathways, that's meant for Jindahad. But I'd like to be disproven. I'd like to see if they could do Gammoth. I don't know, maybe besides that, another guess I could say is Agnactor. I'd love to see Agnactor come back. I miss my Clackety-Clack boy. But, yeah, I'm really not sure what other Apex tier monsters they could try and get into the game. Which, if we're not considering that makes me wonder, are we going into Elder level? Is this where we're going to start having to shift towards Elder level monsters? Are we going to start seeing Elder Dragons? Or maybe something like a Cantor and Eucanlos, which are Elder level but are not Elder Dragons. I think I'd be fine with Cantor and Eucanlos, not going to lie. They might not be my favorite monsters, but I would be up to see how they get their upgrade and what they would look like in a game like this. After all, that's the thing about revisions and revamps. Even if it's a monster you do not like at first, hey, you never know. Perhaps you could get a revamp where it becomes a great monster. It might become one of your favorites. That's just how these revamps work, so who knows? That could be the case with Cantor and Eucanlos if they do decide to go that route. But who knows how it's going to go from here. Maybe this will be the start of Elder Dragons, maybe not. Maybe Elder Dragons will be saved for title update 4 or 5. I'm still betting on Shigaru being at the very end, or like as the bridge into the expansion, because there are just too many hints at the current moment in terms of Gormagala and the Frenzy Virus. And yeah, I'm just, like, besides title updates, I'm excited to see how they go for the future of this game in terms of event quests, in terms of ATs, because, I mean, in next few weeks, we're going to be getting AT Ufduna, which I am excited to see what AT Ufduna is going to be like, and you can bet your ass I'm going to make an impressions video on AT Ufduna when that comes out, as well as dedicated highlights. And just, yeah, I'm curious to see where the game goes from here. Because I like this game. I really like this game. And this title update was just overall fantastic. I had an amazing time with it. And once again, I have faith in the devs. I see the passion they have. And I'm sure that they are listening and that they can do amazing things. But overall, those are just my impressions on the Wild's iterations of Seregios and Lagiacrus. Overall, I am very happy, but this is all just me talking. What do you all think? How has your experience been with Lagiacrus and Seregios with the title update as a whole? What is your predictions for the future of this game? Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic like me? Or are there some factors that are worrying you? Whatever else. Feel free to let me know that in the comment section below, and as always, please keep it civil. I think this is a no-duh, but I need to reiterate it every time. It's like, please be civil and kind towards one another in the comments. I know things are tensious right now, but there have been a lot of things in the monster community, but we're better than this. We're better than fighting with one another over stuff like this. I also do have, of course, my Discord, as well as Bluesky links down in the description below, so if you are curious and want to check out the official Discord, see what I've been doing, see any posts in terms of new content I am making, whether they be videos or live streams, or if you just want to chat with people in the Discord, want to share your experiences, want to chat in like Monster Hunter, Soulsborne, whatever else, feel free to come on down and join the server, or follow me on Bluesky. It is much appreciated, and I thank you all. But yeah, with all that being said, I have been the Monarch of Dragons, and I hope you all have a fantastic day / night, wherever you live. Peace, and Goose Vaults.